Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are coming at you live from NEDAS 2018, our summit here in New York City, happening in the brand new and beautiful Convene Times Square. My name is Steve Multer, and here on the hot seat sitting next to me on my left is Mr. Steve Yapsuga, co-chair of the NEDAS Advisory Council, and big success on this. Yes. North American Director of Sales for the Eastern region for Comba Telecom. This was a great day. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So proud of all this.
Very much so.
All right, so you've been a market strategist and a business technologist in wireless for a lot of years now. You specialize in DAS, in wireless public safety, in-building capabilities, smart city initiatives. So what I really want to do with you is I want to begin by talking about some of the challenges of in-building communications, things like Wi-Fi and cellular coverage. What do you think are the biggest challenges that we're facing and that we all need to address and overcome?
Sure. So there's a number of challenges, Steve. I think that one of the initial challenges is change and adoption to change, because right now it seems that there's a real shift. There's a shift with both public safety initiatives, because public safety, people have to make very difficult decisions to ensure that there's communications throughout the building. In terms of regular cellular connectivity or Wi-Fi, the tenant and the end user has the expectation that they have to have always-on availability. And it's moved towards a utility approach. The expectation that it should be like water or electricity.
Sure. You turn on the tap and away it goes, and it totally flows.
Very much so.
And this actually ties back to what your panel was a little bit earlier. So when you do look at this on the public safety side, and say we're talking about cellular inside the building, what is unique about the public safety challenge in particular? Because I think that's the one that affects all of us maybe the most deeply.
Sure, absolutely. And you look at AT&T, for example, the multi-billion-dollar contract that's going to be going on for the next 20 or so years. You're looking at the shift of some of the largest communications companies in the world that are all moving into public safety. One of the other trends is you're looking at a number of OEMs that are moving into the space. So there's a major land grab with public safety, and there's a reason for that. One of the reasons is that now that with life-threatening situations, people need to be able to pick up their phone and call 911 inside of a building. The first mandate is new buildings. So all new buildings have to have complete coverage inside the building. So what that requires is different types of technology within public safety. There's different bands that are covered, whether it's 700 or 800 UHF or VHF. And there's also different types of technology, whether they're going to be broadband related or channelized, or even perhaps a fiber-based solution. So there's a number of different ways of approaching it, but it all depends upon the authorities having jurisdiction. And there's thousands of them throughout the US. So each one is very different. So one county could be right next to the other, and they might have entirely different stances on the type of battery backup, the amount of channels inside the BDA, and what types of requirements they're going to be for automatic gain control and squelch.
Navigation is extraordinary. Is this just time in the industry and learning how people do things, or is it constantly listening, paying attention, extending the conversation?
Well, I think that it's continual improvement with education. And I think one of the gaps that's being bridged today is part of the AHJ's learning more, because they're being surrounded with obviously associations and groups like NEDAS and SBC and a number of other groups that are pushing the forefront of education to ensure that these police and fire and emergency response are looking at best practices so they have effective communications and efficient communications, because it goes down to money as well.
This is very interesting. Alyssa was talking about this a ton today as well. Education, education, education. If you come down to what is really key about a meeting like this and putting these great minds in the room, that's really what it's all about, is exposure. I want to go back to the panel that you moderated. Great panel on enabling carrier connectivity, specifically in enterprise-funded buildings. And I want to go to that a little bit. You described something called the carrier conundrum. Tell us what the carrier conundrum is in your view and what it means to you.
Sure. So right now we face a very unique challenge. First off, the worker of today is very different, because in the past everybody's working out of the same office, you're working out of cubes or whatnot, And today, because of BYOD, bring your own device, we're not talking about bring your own DAS at this point in time, but bring your own device, what this has enabled, it's enabled a movement for telecommuters. So there's the beauty of the telecommuter, there's less people in the building, but the demand has entirely changed. So now that you're telecommuting, the expectation is for you to be on 24/7. The expectation is for you to be available to answer calls at any point in time of the day. So you have that flexibility, but there's a major trade-off. The other side is the building itself has changed into an Uber type of format, where in the past, it's all about hardened real estate, purchase, lease, but now it's a rental approach. We're in the beautiful Convene location in New York City, but there's other companies like WeWork that have emerged, such as Convene, that's opened up this new type of technology offering. And now, millennials want to have this open space. They want to have it whenever they have the ability to use it, when they want to use it. And so at the same point in time, when they're in here, not only are they going to use it with whatever spaces and the technology, but the expectation that the internet is going to be available, meaning that you've got to have solid connectivity, and that requires your mobile devices, because typically folks have 4 or 5 mobile devices. So if you've got mobile devices and IoT devices, you need to be able to turn all of them on. So that requires infrastructure. So that infrastructure could be a mixture of fiber, coax cable, antennas to help improve the cellular connection. And that could go back to a myriad of ways of, you've got small cell, you've got BTS, you've got various signal sources, MBDAs that could help provide the signaling inside of the building. So there's a number of different ways to approach that.
Not just one method to the destination, it's
Absolutely.
A number of avenues. And I'm glad you brought up BYOD, because I personally want to start a revolution that we change it to BYO4D or BYO3D, because it's not a device any longer.
No.
It's how many devices are you bringing in the door. You just touched on it, and I want to go a tiny bit further with the changes in the real estate market. So not just how the real estate market is responding to the demand, but the different demands on venue owners now as they acquire that property and as they retrofit existing property to be able to handle demand, because if it's not there, the complaints flow freely and you end up with empty space.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a major challenge. And not only do they have to be savvy real estate experts, but they also have to be savvy technologists. And part of that is to ensure that you have that connectivity throughout the building in an efficient manner so it's fully scalable. There's a lot of push and talk about 5G, and that's certainly going to arrive, but for the time being, they have to have full connectivity from a 4G standpoint. They have to be able to have ubiquitous carrier coverage. And this is not like 3 or 4 years ago where the carriers used to be able to fund these types of buildings. There's so many other projects that they have to focus on. So now it's an open door. And so now you've got these VC style groups that are coming in to help fund and perhaps lease it back. So you go from a CapEx to an OpEx.
Yeah, and this is where the middle prize really comes into play, because it's such an untapped market of just extraordinary value.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. The middle prize DAS market is really the ripest, largest opportunity. It's the biggest land grab, because you're talking about most buildings throughout the United States are under 600,000 square feet. So there's such a surplus of these buildings, not only for tenants, because it's ripe for tenants, but you also have so many users within these spaces that are renting and leasing and moving in and moving out. So we need to ensure that they've got connectivity.
Absolutely. Steve, it's been a great day. It's been a long day.
Yes.
Thank you for taking, you are the last person that I get a chance to talk to today, and your energy is still good, and you're focused, and you're smiling, and you're clearly happy about the event.
Absolutely.
It's been great.
Absolutely.
Such a pleasure.
Major success.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, thanks to all of you. We will see you at a future NEDAS Summit.
Thank you.